Okay, picture this. A mysterious stranger walks into a high school. Not a student, not a teacher, just a guy who shows up, looks at the chaos, sizes up every single person in the room, and then proceeds to dismantle the entire rotten system with nothing but skill, intelligence, and a complete disregard for rules that were never protecting anyone anyway. Now tell me, does that sound like Jack Reacher to you? Because it sounds like Jack Reacher to me, but here is the thing. This is not Reacher. This is a Korean drama that just hit Netflix, climbed straight to #1 on the non-English charts, and is doing something that very few shows actually manage to pull off. It is taking a familiar formula, stripping it back down, rebuilding it in a completely different cultural context, and making it hit harder than most of the big-budget American action shows you have probably been watching. The show is called Teach You a Lesson, and today we are going to talk about why this show works, what it is doing that Reacher and Cobra Kai figured out before it, why it belongs in the conversation with some of the best bullying dramas Korea has ever produced, and most importantly, whether it is actually worth your time. Let's get into it. So first, the basics. Teach You a Lesson is a 10-episode limited K-drama that dropped on Netflix on June 5, 2026. It is based on a Korean webtoon called Chamjeoyeok, which roughly translates to something like true education or real lessons, depending on who you ask. The webtoon has a dedicated fan base, and the adaptation has been highly anticipated for a while. The director is Hong Jong-chan, who you might recognize from Juvenile Justice, the 2022 legal drama that tackled South Korea's youth criminal justice system and got a lot of attention internationally. He reunited with two of his Juvenile Justice collaborators here, actors Kim Moo-yeol and Lee Sung-min, which already tells you something about the tone they were going for. The premise is this. In South Korea, school bullying has become so severe, so systemic, and so badly handled by teachers, parents, and administrators that the government has quietly created a fictional agency called the Educational Rights Protection Bureau, the ERPB for short, and the ERPB does not send counselors, it does not hold assemblies, it does not print pamphlets. It sends inspectors. Specifically, it sends Na Hwa-jin, played by Kim Moo-yeol, who is a former Special Forces operator turned government-sanctioned problem solver. He and his team, which includes fellow ex-commando I.M. Han Lim, tech support specialist Bong Joon-dee, played by Block B's P.O., and Bureau founder Choi Kang-seok, played by Lee Sung-min, go from school to school, assess each situation, and then do something completely radical. They stand with the victims, and when the bullies refuse to stop, the Bureau makes them stop. Their methods are, to put it diplomatically, not exactly by the book. Each episode essentially follows a new school, a new injustice, a new set of bullies and victims. The episodic structure is deliberate. It gives the show a procedural rhythm, almost like a case of the week format, but the stakes feel personal every single time because the show does not let you forget that these are kids whose lives are being destroyed. One of the cases that critics have highlighted involves a student named Jeongmin, who is trapped between daily physical abuse and the memory of a friend who took his own life because of it. The faculty knows. The faculty looks the other way. And Hwa-jin walks in, reads the room in about 30 seconds, and the situation stops being the faculty's choice to ignore. Now let's talk about why the Reacher comparison is not just a marketing angle, because I think it is actually more accurate than it might first appear. Jack Reacher, the character created by author Lee Child and brought to screens by Alan Ritchson in the Prime Video series, is built on a very specific fantasy. He is a drifter. He has no fixed home, no permanent ties, no institutional loyalty. He shows up in a town where something is wrong. He figures out what is wrong faster than anyone else because he is smarter and more observant than the people who have been there all along. And then he removes the problem with the kind of efficiency that bureaucracy and law enforcement have completely failed to achieve. Teach You a Lesson is doing the exact same thing in a high school ecosystem. Na Hwa-jin moves between schools. He does not stay. He does not integrate. He shows up, he observes, he acts, and he leaves. He is not there to become part of the community. He is there to fix it so that the community can function again once he is gone. Both characters also share this quality where their power is never really in question. Reacher is physically enormous, a former military police major with an almost supernatural ability to predict violence and neutralize threats before they escalate. Hwa-jin is also ex-special forces. Also operates with a tactical calmness that makes him appear untouchable, and the show treats him with that same sense of invulnerability that makes Reacher so satisfying to watch. And then there is the bureaucratic angle. One of the things people underestimate about Reacher is that it is not just an action show. A core part of its appeal is watching Reacher navigate systems that are designed to protect the wrong people. The corruption is always institutional. The problem is never just one bad actor. It is a whole ecosystem of complicity, Teach You a Lesson operates on the same logic. Hwa-jin is not just fighting bullies. He is fighting principals who protect star students because of parental pressure. He is fighting teachers who have been beaten down by a system that stripped away their authority. He is fighting parents who weaponize their wealth and social connections to insulate their children from consequences. The Korea Times review of the show actually put it really well. It described the real-world context of the drama as a classroom that has, quote, devolved. Teachers are openly mocked. Disruptive students face zero accountability, and educators are left powerless, forced into willful ignorance just to survive the school day. That is not fiction. That is a documented tension in Korean education, and the show is using that reality as the foundation for its power fantasy, just like Reacher uses real institutional rot in American systems as the foundation for its. The Cobra Kai comparison is equally interesting, but for different reasons. Cobra Kai figured out something very specific about what makes high school conflict compelling on screen. It is not just the fights. The fights are fun, and the choreography in Cobra Kai is genuinely excellent. But what keeps people watching is the escalation. The way that small slights turn into entrenched rivalries. The way that trauma, even decades old, keeps reshaping present behavior. The way that people who were once victims can become perpetrators without even realizing it. Teach You a Lesson is deeply interested in that same escalation dynamic. The show is tracking how bullying spirals, how one incident creates a culture, how that culture becomes normalized, how everyone inside the system starts making small compromises until the compromises become the system itself. Cobra Kai also works because it refuses to flatten its characters into simple heroes and villains. Johnny Lawrence, who was the villain of the original Karate Kid film, gets an entire character arc built around understanding why he became who he was and what it would take to become something different. The show is genuinely interested in redemption as a process, not just as a destination. Teach You a Lesson has echoes of that too. It is not purely interested in punishment. It is interested in why these systems of abuse exist, who benefits from them, and what actually needs to change for things to get better. The Bureau is not just there to hurt the bullies. It is there to correct the conditions that allowed the bullying to happen in the first place. Now here is where I think Teach You a Lesson gets really interesting, because it is not operating in a vacuum. It is the latest entry in a very specific Korean drama subgenre that has been growing in ambition and impact for years. The Glory, released on Netflix in late 2022 and early 2023, is probably the most famous example. It follows Moon Dong-yoon, played by Song Hye-kyo, a woman who was brutally bullied as a teenager and who spends years, very patiently, very methodically, engineering the complete destruction of every person who tormented her. The bullying depicted in The Glory was inspired by a real 2006 incident in South Korea, and the show had real-world impact. It contributed directly to policy conversations about how Korean schools handle abuse. What The Glory understood is that the most powerful bullying narratives are not about the moment of violence. They are about the aftermath, the long-term psychological damage, the way the system protects perpetrators, the way victims are doubted, dismissed, and asked to simply move on. Teach You a Lesson is building on both of those foundations. It has the systemic critique of The Glory and the satisfying action throughline of Weak Hero, but it adds something neither of those shows had. It gives us an external agent, a force that comes from outside the system, specifically because the system cannot fix itself from the inside. That is actually a really smart structural choice. The Glory and Weak Hero work because their protagonists are intimately embedded in the systems they are fighting. Dong-yoon lived through it. Si-yoon is in the middle of it. But that also means their victories are hard-won and often incomplete. Hwa-jin gets to be different. He walks in clean. He has no prior relationship with these schools, these students, these power dynamics. He sees it all clearly because he has no stake in pretending it is fine. And that outside perspective is part of what makes the fantasy so satisfying. But even with that caveat, the underlying social critique is landing. Viewers in Korea and internationally are responding to the show with a kind of recognition that goes beyond the entertainment value. The comments sections are full of people saying this reflects something real, something they have seen, something they have lived. That is what separates the best entries in this subgenre from the average ones. The Glory did not just entertain people, it made them angry about something real. Weak Hero did not just thrill people, it made them think about what it means to survive in a system designed to ignore you. Teach You a Lesson is aiming for the same target. Let's be straight about this. If you are a fan of Reacher, the episodic structure and the overpowered protagonist are going to feel immediately familiar and immediately comfortable. The satisfaction of watching someone competent walk into an incompetent system and fix it is exactly the same. If you are a fan of Cobra Kai, the high school setting and the escalating conflict dynamics are going to scratch a very similar itch. The fight choreography is real. The ensemble cast has good chemistry. The camaraderie between the Bureau team is one of the genuine pleasures of the show. Here is the thing about this genre of show. Whether it is Reacher or Cobra Kai or The Glory or Weak Hero, what all of these shows are ultimately doing is taking a broken system, building a character who is uniquely suited to break through it, and then letting that character loose. The pleasure is not really about the punches. It is about the fantasy of accountability. The idea that someone, somewhere, with the right skills and the right motivation is going to show up and make the people who hurt others face what they actually did. That fantasy is powerful because accountability is genuinely rare. Systems protect themselves. Power protects itself. The person with the most resources usually walks away cleanest. And shows like Teach You a Lesson exist to give you the feeling, even for 10 episodes, that it does not always have to work that way. Is it the greatest show ever made? No. Is it doing something genuinely interesting in a genre that has produced some remarkable work over the last few years? Absolutely. Give it an episode, see if it grabs you. I think for a lot of you it is going to. That is it for today. If you have already watched Teach You a Lesson, drop your thoughts in the comments. If you are a big Reacher or Cobra Kai fan and you decide to check this out, come back and let me know how it lands for you. I will see you in the next one.